What's the number one way to invest? It's real estate. I mean,
Absolutely.
it's never ever going to decrease. I mean,
Right.
I would say if it's something that you're interested in exploring,
And we happen to think Tuscaloosa is a pretty good market to do that in.
Absolutely.
I'm Vicki Grodner, and I'm the college real estate coach. Today, I'm so pleased to welcome my friend, Lindsay Nance, who also is a fabulous lender here in the Tuscaloosa market. And I thought, Lindsay, it would be really interesting for us to talk to folks about buying real estate as an investment or as a parent, right? So there's so many interesting nuances that people aren't aware of, and they think if they bought a house before, I know how to buy a house, I know how to buy property. But as you and I both know, sometimes there are things that are very different about that. So first of all, thank you for being here.
You're so welcome. Thank you.
And so let's go ahead and talk about those parents first. So a lot of times parents will come into town and they want to buy a condo. Probably the most common product, right, that parents want to buy.
So the first thing, we always ask, are you buying for yourself, for, just luxury, or are you looking for a kid to come in?
And why does that matter?
Well, it matters for a couple of different reasons. Rate purposes, down payment purposes, other things.
So you have to put a bigger down payment down if
it's an investment property.
Okay.
So if they're purchasing for a child, if that child has credit and if they're going to be living there, then we can do it as a primary residence.
Okay.
And that's where you have a very minimum, maybe 5% down versus a 20% down if they're looking to purchase it as an investment purchase.
Okay.
The interest rate is one of the biggest, features right now. Is as a primary residence, it's going to be a lot lower, and the cost of that rate is going to be a lot lower than if you did it as a second home or an investment purchase. But there are three different scenarios that we're seeing a lot of people take advantage in our Tuscaloosa, Birmingham market. Is primary, adding the child onto the loan, where the child can actually homestead the property.
And they can be on the loan if they're how old?
19 years old.
19. Okay, right. I know that's true for title as well.
Yes, that's a state of Alabama situation. Right. So as long as a child is at least 19 years of age, they don't have to have any income because, the parent can back the loan and all of that. But they can actually homestead the property, keeping the property taxes at a much lower rate, lower down payment, or if the child's not of age yet or they don't really want to have the child on the loan, then we can look at a second home. That is a 10% down payment. Rate cost is very similar to an investment purchase. But the down payment is much lower than that. So as an investment purchase, they're looking at a minimum, depending on if it's a home, condo, anywhere from 20 to 25%. And the rate cost is very similar to a second home.
Okay. When we talk about condos, let's just stick with that for a minute. There are some interesting terms and things that people may not have heard if they've just bought a primary home. So talk to me about things like non-warrantable and other special circumstances that sometimes can apply when somebody's buying, I think, a condo specifically, right?
Correct. So with a condo, one thing that we're going to look at is the HOA. We're going to get, all the details that go along with the HOA, the budget, how many people, own the condo, the complex. Is there one investor that owns multiple complexes? With
multiple
units, yes, within the complex. So that is what's going to determine.
And why does that matter?
So that does matter because if you have, one investor that owns over 50% of that complex, if for some reason that investor goes down, that complex could take a big hit.
Right.
So we want to look and make sure that, the client and ourselves as the lender is being protective. And there's things that we can do non-warrantable, but those, say if you have one person that owns more than 50% of the units in that complex, we can do what's called non-warrantable. So that means that the down payment may be a little bit higher. because the risk is a little bit higher.
Okay.
And then there's other things that could, maybe they don't hold enough of what the government agency thinks they need in insurance on the complex. That's another thing that could make it non-warrantable.
Okay.
It can also make it non-warrantable if they don't have enough reserves. So there's things that could make a complex non-warrantable. And make that down payment a lot lower. We don't have a lot of non-warrantable complexes, I don't feel like, in Tuscaloosa. But we do have, some that are, converting into new constructions.
What I was going to say. That's sometimes where we see it, right? That's
correct.
Like if there's a new complex or an apartment that's being converted to a condo, and so you've got a developer who owns everything and then starts selling them off one by one.
That's correct.
So until things get a little more balanced, then that makes the property non-warrantable. That
is correct. Okay. Yes, ma'am.
Gotcha.
And then, warrantable is, just your minimum 20% down or 10% or primary 5%.
Right.
So
there's different kinds of loans, of course. There's conventional, there's FHA, VA, USDA. USDA means it's going to be out in the country. So you certainly could buy things in Tuscaloosa, but you're not going to be near the campus.
That's correct. So with USDA, it's got to be someone's primary residence. You can't own another property.
Okay.
You only can have the one property. That's it. There's FHA that, has to be somebody's primary residence. So we've had several students that come in. FHA is going to be a lower down payment, like minimum 3.5%.
Okay. So that's why people like it?
That's correct. For the lower, the seller can pay more in closing cost.
Okay.
So that would help, with their out-of-pocket expense. But you could have your child come in, do an FHA loan. You as the parent, you're just going to be a cosigner. That would help, qualify them for the property at a much lower down payment and much lower out-of-pocket expense. And then a conventional loan is more or less like what we talked about, a second home, a conventional investment property. And those, don't always have to be your primary, but they do have a larger down payment.
If I'm a vet or in the military, can I use a VA loan to buy?
You can, as long as it's going to be your primary residence.
Okay.
So it's got to be your primary residence. And a lot of people don't realize you can have 2 VA loans at one time. So like if they're moving here to be closer to their kids or whatever, and don't really want to sell before doing that, they can do that at the same time.
So you were talking earlier about, it can be somebody's primary if there's students living there. So can that also work with that VA loan then?
So with a VA loan, the only cosigner that you can have is if it's a spouse.
Okay. Gotcha.
And you can have a non-spouse, but then you're going to be looking at like a 12.5%, investment. So it wouldn't be the benefit most of the time for a VA loan is for them to do 100% financing, no private mortgage insurance, those kind of things.
For sure. Investors. So let's talk about investors for a minute. So I'm Joe Blow from out of state, and I've heard that this college town, whether it's Tuscaloosa or any other college town, is great to invest in. What should I know about working with a lender if I'm going to be buying investment property?
You need to check out, of course, rates, fees, those kind of things. But what type of property? Not, all lenders do jumbo loans. Not all lenders do.
What's a jumbo loan?
So a jumbo loan is anything over the conforming loan limit, which is like $726,000. So, a jumbo loan, if you're looking at those higher priced properties, you have, maybe 10% down, you have no private mortgage insurance, those kind of things. It's just anything over the conforming limit.
Gotcha.
It's a conventional loan, same guidelines.
Right.
It's just for those higher price properties.
So if I want to buy one of those properties right across from the stadium that's $1 million
you're definitely going to be looking at that jumbo. That's right. That's going to be a condo jumbo. Absolutely. But there's a lot of, benefits to a jumbo loan because you don't have the private mortgage insurance. You're not throwing that money away every month.
Right.
On that. So there's a benefit of putting, more money down on a non-jumbo loan to get away from not having to pay that private mortgage insurance and stuff like that. But the benefit, I think, just working with a local lender, especially, investors coming in, is they don't really, the online lenders, all of that, they don't really know our area. They don't know our, condos. They don't know, how we function. So yes, they may can a preview, but when it gets down to it, they don't have the insights that we have in our local market.
Right, right. So I know I have some investors that have bought more than one property and have used you as their lender. Mm-hmm. So how many properties could an investor potentially have and have loans with, a company like yours?
Up to 10.
Really?
That are financed. Yeah,
Isn't
they can have up to 10 loans, as they're financing. And a lot of investors, they purchase it and then they get it under contract in a lease agreement, and then they come back to us and we use 75% of that, monthly lease amount to offset the debt for the property that they just purchased.
Okay, so let me get it straight. So you buy property A, mm-hmm. and then you turn around and you lease it out to students.
That's right.
And then you're saying 75% of that lease income can be used to then qualify for property B.
That's correct. Yes.
Okay.
So like if it's a $1,000 limit, mm-hmm. Monthly rent,
yes,
then we would be able, on the next property B, we would be able to use $750 of that rent agreement before it's filed on tax returns.
Right. Okay.
So we would there's
cool.
a couple of documents that we would get,
right.
And that would be roughly the lease agreement and maybe like the first month, rent plus deposit, or 2 months rent,
right.
Just to show that leasee is going to be able to uphold their commitment, right. of that agreement.
So when we think about the college town part of Tuscaloosa, so not necessarily people that live here, although we love them too.
Yes.
That live here full time. But like, what's the makeup and the, kind of the profile, if you will, of the folks you're seeing now that are, purchasing in Tuscaloosa and using your services?
So a lot of investors are coming in. They're Airbnb-ing out these properties. They're coming in for, game days. For football, I've had one just right. literally yesterday I talked with that, he's like, I'm coming and spending all this money in Airbnbs to go to the football games. I might as well just go ahead and purchase now, and then I'll Airbnb it when I'm not there.
Right.
So they're
I'll
getting
get somebody else's money.
That's right.
As opposed to them getting mine.
That's right. He's like, I'll just block it off, and then he said I don't come to every home game, but
right.
every home games. But he's like, I'll just make money on the ones, and then I have a place of my own to come to.
Exactly.
When that time comes. But that is, I feel like. And even just investors that don't even know our market has just told the story, I guess, out there, yes. in our investment world that,
yes.
It's a great place to invest, and the return is guaranteed. I mean, we can't keep rentals on the market.
Right. Well, I mean, and part of that's the way that university's grown, right? Mm-hmm. And then the kind of that profile, which is more than half of the kids being from out of state. So they got to have some place. And the freshmen have a place to stay on campus, but then after that, they have to go on your own. Yeah.
And the rental. I mean, they might as well, they can really pay less in a mortgage than they can in local rent.
Right.
So why not invest in, so many, it's like, hey, if I do this for 4 years, I can turn around and make money when I go to sell. And, yet it didn't cost me that much, and they're getting kids to move in with them, and they're renting by the room.
Yes,
so,
exactly.
I've got one mom. We just closed a deal with in the Birmingham market with Ken. And her daughter was having 3 girls come in, and they were going to pay, I think, $900 a bedroom, and that paid more than the mortgage.
That's right.
She's literally bought this investment that her daughter's going to live in while they're in school, and she's not paying anything for it.
That's amazing.
So,
okay, I'm going to ask you a question that everybody wants to know. And of course, if you actually knew the answer, then you wouldn't be working in mortgage. You would just be like out there because you'd be a billionaire. But rates. Everybody thinks rates are going to come down.
I honestly...
What do you think?
I honestly don't think we're going to see a rate drop probably within the year. I mean,
Yeah.
I think it'll come down a little bit, but it's such a roller coaster right now. Like, it's coming down, it's going back up. Like,
Right.
I mean, we had probably the biggest 3-day refinance boom a couple of months ago.
Yeah.
It was 3 days. Like, if you didn't get in it,
Wow.
you were done. So, I mean, honestly, I don't see, I think where we're at right now is where we're going to be for a little while. And we've even seen.
Which is around what I know. There's
About
lots of factors.
6.5,
Okay.
6.875. So
yeah.
we are back where we were before COVID. I
Yeah.
mean, we're
Right.
in that same market, and I will say that since probably about May, the market has really just picked up. People aren't even really discussing rates right now. They're discussing, what is my monthly payment? What can I afford? You know, what's my out-of-pocket expense?
Right.
It's kind of like we went into like a car salesman mentality when it comes to mortgages. So
Right.
you know, it's just one of those things. It is what it is. We can't change it.
Yeah, and I think some people were sitting on the sidelines too, waiting, and now they just have fatigue from waiting, right? And so they're like, okay, I'm just going to
do it. Yeah.
Yes.
Well, and I think they will eventually come down, just because I don't think
to 2% and 3%.
I don't know that we'll ever see that, Cookie. I mean, I wish.
I know. I wish
my
that for
husband asked
people
me
too.
the other day, like, "Hey, it's about time for us to move," and I'm like,
Yeah, right.
"No," but I don't know that we'll see that in our lifetime. But I do project maybe in the 4s, probably over the next year and a half, based on what we're being told.
Right. And by the way, what you just referenced, I mean, that's why we've had an inventory problem, right? Is we haven't had inventory because so many people are sitting with loans at 2.5% and 3%. And so they're like, don't want to give that up, even if they're not loving their house or they've outgrown it or
Absolutely.
whatever. So yeah, that's just hard for people to let that go.
Well, and we need to downsize, but
Yeah.
I'm like, we can't find what we have
Right.
at a 2% interest rate. You just, we would double our payment and get less of a house. So that is still a big thing. But I think some of those are just life events that are
That's right.
that are happening. They have no choice but to make that move.
Yes. Well, that's all incredibly helpful. So
You're
what
very welcome.
what other thoughts do you have? Anything we didn't talk about that you think people should know as it relates to, again, buying in a college town, whether as an investor, a parent, whatever?
No, I think we hit on everything. I just think that if it's something that you've been exploring, I mean, let's get out, let's look at it and see. I mean, when you look at the numbers and kind of do all of that, does it make sense for you financially? Because what's the number one way to invest? It's real estate. I mean,
Absolutely.
it's never ever going to decrease. I mean, so our stock markets are going up and down, right? But the real estate has been a proven factor of, and we have a lot of investors coming in, pulling money from those stocks to invest in real estate and this cash deals and all of that. So they've gotten a wind of it. So I would say if it's something that you're interested in exploring, let's.
And we happen to think Tuscaloosa is a pretty good market to do that in.
Absolutely.
So good. Well, Lindsay, thank you for being here with us.
You're very welcome. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. I'm Vicki Grodner, and I'm the College Real Estate Coach.